I am excited to get to share a little bit about the fly-ins, and just excited to be with you all tonight. So, my name is Lucas Chittick. I'm a Stars College advisor at the University of Chicago. I know many of you are coming from different uh, partner high schools, and so many of you are working with the folks at WashU or Vanderbilt or UT Austin or David Laurie. So all are welcome. But I'm at the University of Chicago. Um, Shout out to my partner high schools in California and Montana and Idaho and Illinois and Wisconsin and New Mexico. Um, but I'm excited to have you all tonight here. Tonight we're going to talk about the STARS fly-in applications for the 2026 year. And we're going to go over just what are the different flying options that you can apply for, and then how does the application look, and just kind of walk through the different parts of the application. I'll be leading the webinar. And then Phil, who's another one of our great Stars College advisors at Washington University in St. Louis, is going to be able to work the chat, the Q&A. So feel free to put questions in there. I'll also be looking for questions throughout. I'd love to hear some questions that you all have. But let's get started. So all of you know the Stars College Network is this collection of 32 colleges and universities that are trying to support small and rural town students with applying and going to the colleges that they want to. Um, of these 32, four of them are doing these Stars Fly-ins, and the Stars Fly-ins are meant to give you all a chance to visit some of our campuses, experience what it's like to be a student, do workshops, meet other students from rural areas. I just met with actually two students who did the fly-in at U Chicago in the fall, not in the fall, this past May. And they were talking about how like they're still in touch with other people who did the fly-in and how it was like they have like a group chat going and they're really connected to each other. So I think like that's a massively underrated part of it is just like you get to meet other students like you from across the US. Um, and then you also get to meet a lot of current students at these institutions and learn about what their experience is like on campus. I know when the students came to U Chicago for the fly-in that we had in May, there was a couple rural students who they got to hear from about what their experience was like at U Chicago so far. I think that was really beneficial. So these are just some pictures at the bottom of different flying groups. They're all smiling, happy, having a good time. I think reflecting like that camaraderie that a lot of them develop when their time on campus. So the four fly-ins that are happening are at Colby College, Brown University, Amherst College, and Case Western Reserve University. Uh, Brown Brown is taking place from September 27th to the 29th, and it's for the class of 2027. Amherst is taking place September 25th through the 28th. It is also for the class of 2027. Case Western Reserve University, theirs is taking place October 13th, 11th through the 13th, and it's for the class of 2027. And then Colby College, theirs is taking place October 18th to the 20th, and it's for the class of 2027 and 2028. You all can maybe see that um, two of them do have a conflict with each other. So if you were admitted to say both Amherst and Brown, you would eventually have to make a decision. But we'll kind of talk about that. And then additionally, three of them are for current rising seniors only. And then Colby is for both rising seniors and rising juniors. Um, Colby's in Waterville, Maine. Amherst is in Amherst, Massachusetts. So it's just about a little bit north of Springfield, Massachusetts, and about maybe a couple hours to the west of Boston. Brown is in Providence, Rhode Island, and then Case Western Reserve is in Cleveland, Ohio. Um, for these fly-ins, some things I want to make sure you all know is that even though you might be really far from these campuses, they are fully funded. So they pay for, the Stars College Network would pay for you to fly out to these campuses, stay there for the course of the entire visit, pay for all of your food and all of the other programming that's taking place. It would be at completely no cost to you. That is the same thing for these applications. There is no application fee. You can apply for free, and then if you are admitted, it is an entirely free experience. So I like to say the only really thing you are investing in this is your time. Um, there's not an expectation that if you go to one of these flyings, you have to apply to that school. I think there's a hope that like you might really like the college, the experience that you have there and want to apply, but that's not the expectations you have to do it. It is more about giving you that chance to see the campus, see if you like it, learn a little bit about college in general and what it's like to be a college student, and then make a decision on, oh, this is a good fit for me, or I want a place kind of like this, but maybe slightly different in this way. Um, so if you have any questions about what these fly-ins can look like, what it look, the experience be, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. Um, but we are going to now do a walkthrough of the application. Um, so I'm gonna go out. Um, we can provide a link to anyone who's curious, but also you can find the link to apply on the Stars College Network website. If you go to events and then it's under 2026 fly-in for seniors, um, the application link is here. And if possible, we'll also try to put it in the chat. Um, for those that are juniors on the call, there's also a fly-in opportunity for MIT. We're not going to cover that. And then there's also another fly-in for Columbia. We're not going to cover either of those applications, but I do think the what we cover for this application walkthrough is going to be very similar to what those applications look like and the core pieces of an application. So let me get that application pulled up and ready to share with everyone. So when you log in, once you've created an account, when you all already have an account, you'll be taken to application management and you'll create a 2026 fall fly-in application. Open it, and we will go to program details. So the first thing I want to cover that I think a lot of students get stuck on, and this is not something I think you necessarily have to do right away. You can cover other parts of the application first, but this is something you will have to do, which is ranking the colleges. So in terms of ranking them, you would go here and you would put whatever rank it is you feel for them. So say, for example, uh, Amherst is your number one choice. You would put in number one and save it, and then it would appear there. You can't rank more than one school the same rank. So, for example, you might be able to put in Brown as your other number one, but if you try to submit, this will not work. It will ask you, you will have to change your ranking. Um, you don't have to rank uh, more than you can rank up to four, or you can rank just one, and anywhere in between. In terms of the ranking, uh, I would say they are all different schools. So like you're gonna get a lot of different experiences at each one. Um, the cost is all the same though. They're all free. Um, you could also be selected for multiple fly-ins. So for example, let's say you rank all three of them. Number three is case what? All four. And you rank all four. There definitely exists a world in which you are selected maybe for the Amherst one and the Case Western one and the Colby one, maybe even Brown, but you'd have to choose between Brown and Amherst, which most likely if you picked it one. I know some of you might be thinking, so do the how does that ranking affect our application? Which is a great question if you're thinking that. The colleges, each of these four institutions, when they are reading your application, they will see what you ranked them. So, like Amherst would see they were ranked number one. They wouldn't see what was ranked two, three, or four. They wouldn't know if you ranked any other choices. They would just know this. For example, Colby would know they were ranked four. They wouldn't know the order of the three above them. In terms of how a college might view that ranking process, I would say when they're reading the applications, they're probably going to start with the applications that rank them number one, because that's going to imply that those students are the most interested in them and most excited to visit their campus. So they're going to probably want to give those students the opportunity first versus the students who rank them number four. Um, I would also encourage you all to think if you're ranking a school number four, there you can consider like, yes, there was only four options, and so if there maybe had been more options, maybe four would seem not so bad, but it is the last option. So that might also play a factor in how your application's reviewed. Um, the next thing you need to do is select how you heard about the program. You all can select many different ways because you've heard about it many ways from all of us. So you might have heard about it from your counselor. You might have heard about it from us as the scholarship or the CBO or the advisor. So like you could list Phil or I or any of your STARS College advisors. You could put the STARS email newsletter, the STARS website. If you're a parent on this call and you're going to get off and share this information with your child, they would probably want to select that. Or I believe is you do have to select one of these. So I'm going to select this one and I'm going to say STARS College Advising Webinar. And then I'm going to continue. And now I'm on to the personal details. So the personal details are is going to be your first and last name. It needs to be the same as your legal identification, what's going to appear on your driver's license. You can provide a preferred name though. So if any of you have a preferred name you like to go by, if you provide it here, that is what you're going to be referred to in all the communications. But we do need that legal first and last name. You'll provide your email, your telephone number. My phone number is not 123456789, but you would provide a phone number like that, especially if you would want to receive text and SMS. It is important that you also provide your street address. When you put in your street address, um, you'll want to put uh, your mailing address is where you currently reside. So we want your mailing address, but your permanent address could maybe be where you reside during other parts of the program. The reason we need your mailing address is because if you are selected for this program, we might mail you materials. For example, you might get like a t-shirt that's like stars flying at this school. So we need to know what address to mail that to. Um, it should autofill the information. I will say for the example that I gave, it didn't want to autofill. So I think 402 North 3rd Street, Fisher, Illinois. There, it popped up. Well, so the first time around, it didn't want to do it. And you can provide, oh, I live here from June 1st to the 26th. Um, maybe, for example, you're going to be somewhere over the summer. Let's see, September. That would be there. But you can also provide a permanent address. If it's a permanent address, we'll assume we can also just mail it to your permanent address. We ask for gender. If you want to share more about your gender identity, you can. And then your birthday. Uh, for travel details, I've had definitely students get confused on this. We are not asking if you prefer airport, train, or bus. We're asking what station would you like to leave out of? So, for example, if you put a bus station, we're going to assume you probably want to leave from a bus station, but you can put multiple airports. So, if I lived, for those of you that live in Central Illinois, example might be there's not an airport really close by that might get me to all the places I want to go. So maybe I am closest to the Bloomington airport. Um, in Illinois. Wow. It should. It might be good at this point. Let me see. Oh, here. It doesn't auto-populate. That is frustrating. Well, I will say if you know the name of the airport, you can. I would probably look up in your case, like Bloomington, Illinois Airport. That way you can get the right name. And I would just copy and paste. So Central Illinois Regional Airport, Bloomington, Illinois. But let's say from our end, we can't find you a flight from that airport to our campus. So maybe for your alternate airport, you should think about a larger airport that's maybe farther from home, but is more likely to have the flight you need if you can't get the one close to home. So for me, that might be Midway International Airport, um, in Chicago, Illinois. This question about if you need any assistance, accessibility concerns, and if you have allergies. We definitely want to know if you have allergies because we are going to be providing you food while you're on our campus. So we want to make sure that you're well provided, and really, um, provide anything you want to about your food and dietary restrictions. If it's, let us know if it's an allergy restriction or just a preference. You never know. We're always, if we can make it happen, we'll try to make it happen. Um, and then citizenship. What was your primary citizenship, and if you have dual citizenship, and then residency status if you're a permanent U.S. resident. Okay. Family details. Uh, so. Let's take a look at that. So I will say for all of you, it's going to auto-populate um, some information about your parent or guardian because you have already registered for the college advising program, and with that, you provide your parent or guardian's information. So when you all, if you haven't already started this application through the Stars College Network, it will auto-populate. So don't be surprised at that point. You can always go in and edit that information. Um, Obviously, my mom's name is not Iron Maiden. Great band, though. Um, Provide the email, phone number, and then highest level of education. So this is a question you probably need to ask your parent or guardian about. Um, let's see here. Some trade school or community college, so maybe they started a trade school or community college, but they didn't finish, graduated from that, started a four-year college or university. Um, You don't have to apply. I just saw a question. You don't have to apply for the advising program to apply for the fly-in. It's just more of if you've already registered for the college advising program, we already have some of your information, so it's just going to auto-populate. But you don't have to um, be in both. And this question, did one or more of your parents or guardians graduate from four-year institutions? So we're thinking four-year colleges and universities. Um, So, did they graduate from a four-year college or university? Not necessarily a two-year institution. So, I will say if they did transfer from a two-year and go to a four-year and then graduate from that four-year, that would be a yes. Um, and you can always put, I don't know if you're not sure. Um, but don't also hesitate. Like, this is a question where if you're confused about it and you need help answering it, this is a great thing to reach out to your Stars College advisor about and ask questions. But hey, what should I do here? High school details. So do you receive free and reduced lunch? For this question, I know some schools, every student receives free and reduced lunch. So what they're trying to understand is, are you on a free and reduced lunch program as a family? So another way to think about this is, does your family receive like SNAP or other state or federal government aid? Uh, would be another way to think about how to answer this question if you're not sure. Um, you once again can put I don't know, yes or no, as well. High school information. The best way to do this is to, instead of trying to fill out the street and all this address, start with putting in your school. So for example, um, I might type in River, let's say my school is Powder River High School in Broadus, Montana. It's going to autofill all that information. Um, And then I'm going to put my graduation date. I would say you might not know exactly the date, but the key thing is to give a rough estimate of, oh, I think it'll be around May 15th of 2027 or 2028, for example. GPA. We are asking for what is the GPA your school uses. So you don't need to convert it for us or anything like that. Let's say you have a 4.3 on a 4.0 scale. We're going to assume that it's a likely weighted GPA. Um, in terms of the community area, I believe everyone on this call should be selecting rural. If you're not sure about this, a website you can check is called NCS Locale Lookup, and you can look up your hometown. So, for example, I might look up Fisher, Illinois. That's my hometown. I click on it, and it tells me I am in a rural area. You can do this for any place in the US, including your hometown. So, if you really want to be sure, that's how you can do it. But all of you on this call should be able to select rural. And then the last thing that you'll need to do is upload your most recent transcript that includes all of your junior year grades. With this in mind, I do think some students don't always have access to that or struggle to get that. So this is a thing to start working on if you can, as soon as possible. Um, yeah. With the transcript, uh, I always encourage students to, oh, this is mine. It can be a It can be a picture of your transcript if you don't have, if like you got a picture of it somewhere. It can be a PDF document that you have. I've also had some students where they're not able to get their um, official transcript in, but they are able to kind of put together a screenshot of all their grades that they've got in their class and over their high school career and put those in from like their grade book. Once again, great thing to reach out to your high school, to your college advisor if you're running into an issue with. Next, we ask you to list some of your academic interests. So arts and humanities, so that would both be like the creative arts, but also um, creative writing, English, and things like that. Biological sciences, thinking more biology, anatomy, maybe a pre-med route or a nursing route, um, engineering, math, physical sciences, physics, chemistry. Um, Trying to think of some other physical sciences. Those will come to mind, and then social sciences, political science, sociology, anthropology. It's not a big deal if you're unsure, if you want to select, you're like, I'm interested in all of them, or you're like, I think I'm just interested in this one. Totally fine. We ask that you list all the courses you completed in 12th grade. So this is just kind of another way to confirm the information you have. Um, so you might want to go like AP pre-calc, and then US history, English 11, um, PE, and so on. One thing I skipped over is you need to put in your counselor's information if you have it. So this would be, I might put in, what school did I put in? Oh, I'm gonna put in my old alma mater. No, that's because I didn't fill this part out. There. Okay. It won't let you move on if you don't do your GPA, all of these things. Made a mistake not doing that earlier. So I will say it does have pretty good things to keep you from not filling filling out the things you need to fill out. But the counselor information, I'm going to do that one. Give me the option to auto select it. And then I might put in my counselor's name. Should say, um, John Smith, counselor, maybe school counselor if you know that they have a specific name. And then their email. So like John Smith at your school's email address. And then their phone number if you can provide those things, okay? List the courses you're going to take. So if you know you're taking AP Calculus and AP um, Language, and then you're also taking a Stats 101 for maybe your community college, and list them so on. And then any awards that you've received. I would say you can list school awards, local awards, international honors, really anything at all that you've received that's an award in your high school career. Keep track if you do these. You're going to eventually need to list those same awards later on. I would advise if it's an award that's maybe local or statewide or school, something that isn't maybe the it doesn't hurt to put um student of the month and put school. That way or you could even list your high school's name, but say you could also do um athlete of the week. And that is like a local thing for the News Gazette where I'm from. If you wanted to provide that extra detail to share if it is a local, national, international award. Okay. Activities. They ask you to list 5 activities. They can be clubs, personal hobbies, family obligations, work responsibilities, volunteering. I always try to remind students like if you have significant at-home responsibilities, you're spending several hours a week helping out your family with things, that is worth considering to include. You do only have 5 spots, so I would say really consider what are your most meaningful activities. Um, in terms of the activity name, I might list so let's say I do a sport, maybe uh varsity soccer. And then mine I might put like team captain slash uh left back. And then here's something I would encourage you all. I could just say played soccer all 3 years. That gives me some information as a reader, but if I'm reading your application, I might want to know like, you know, you organize team dinners and training over the summer. And then you also um, you know, created the team group chat. Um, and then lastly, like, was a vocal team member during practice and during games. This gives a lot of detail on all the things you did, both like on the field right here, but it also tells me a lot about like, oh, you creating a group chat like that shows initiative. You organizing team dinners creates initiative. If you didn't do those things, not a big deal, but the specificity is helpful because it helps understand what you did during those roles. Um, let's say you're doing family responsibilities. You could just simply list family responsibilities, and then uh, I would say for this, you can be like cleaner, babysitter. You can do it that way, or you can just say um, son, daughter, older sister, however you would, describe yourself as a part of your family. And then you might want to list things like, um, you know, watched over siblings like twice a week, you know, cooked cooked dinner occasionally and helped my mom uh, mow the lawn. I don't know what your responsibilities are, but you can feel free to add some specificity about what those responsibilities look like. Um, all right, essay question. Now we're getting into the really fun, exciting part of this. Um, so there is one essay question that is required no matter what. For all four of the schools, there isn't one essay question you have to do. And it's this one. The Stars College Network believes it is essential to recognize and celebrate the unique aspects of rural and small town communities across America. Describe a significant aspect of your community background or identity that you believe is essential to understanding your personal journey. Please share your story here in 350 words or less. So you have 350 words to talk about really how your community, your background, or your identity has kind of helped shape your personal journey. Um, it can be very specific about like your small town experience, but it can also be about maybe your friendship group or your identity that you love. You like I am someone who loves. I talked about this earlier soon. So Warhammer 40,000 was like the thing the student talked about. And maybe you're a part of like that kind of community where you have that identity. I always encourage like that to be a part of it. Um, yes. You This is something I definitely suggest meeting with your Stars College advisor if you can and talking with them about and getting some ideas. Like we can help you brainstorm ideas and kind of go down the route. Um, the key thing that we want to take is not just you describing what is your community or what is your background or what is your identity. We want to understand why is that meaningful to you and how you understand yourself in the world. So how do you think your community has shaped you? How does like your view of your community impact how you see going forward in the world? How does your background kind of shaped who you are today and what you kind of hope to do? So focus on that self piece. How is it shaping me? How does that help contextualize who I am and who I've become? Less about trying to describe the community. It's not that we're not interested in hearing about your community or your like the specifics on some of those things. We just want to know how does it shape who you are. Um, all right, test scores. So Amherst, Case Western, and Colby do not require test scores. Um, if you want to, you can provide them. However, um, Brown does ask that students submit them as a part of their application. Um, They are going to be self-reported. They might eventually ask later on if to confirm them, but you don't have to provide proof initially. Um, the essay and the writing sections are optional for the SAT and ACT respectively. Um, and this is how it would look here. So go to SAT, put your test date, January, say 8/19th, 2026, and say I got a 1250 and I got a 620 on my evidence-based reading and math, reading and writing, and then a 630 on my math. Um, all of this other stuff is really nitty-gritty things that you don't have to report all of that. They're mainly looking for these three numbers for the SAT, your total, your evidence-based reading and writing, your math section. For You can use the PSAT if you haven't taken the SAT. And then for the ACT, looking for the composite, the English, the math, and the reading. You can provide science if you want to, but these are the main ones, the composite, the English, the math, and the reading. Um, those are out of 36. There's not a preference between ACT versus SAT. Um, we just ask that, provide whatever one you can. Um, I don't want to drift too much into like how do you decide if you should submit your SAT or ACT score. I think some good rules of thumb are like you can look and see what the kind of median numbers, what are the averages that those schools have accepted in the past. The one downside is that all of these three schools, Amherst, Case Western, and Colby, are test optional, which is historically led to test inflation numbers. So those numbers are not always accurate of the actual students who were admitted to the school. They're only accurate for the students who submitted their test score. So you might get admitted to Case Western with a test score that's not in that average or that median range. Because you didn't submit it, it's not going to show up when they report their test score. So we always kind of say just because you're not in that meeting doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't submit your test score. And that's once again, I think a better one-on-one individual conversation than something like I want to just say off the top board, here are the test scores you should submit. Um, Here are the numbers. Okay, before we go to the next thing, I want to call out just this. So earlier when we were doing program details, we said that we were interested in Brown and Amherst. Because we selected that we were interested in Brown and Amherst, and it's not because we put one and two, it's just because we selected them at all. We now have their supplements. So basically their supplemental essays that they're asking for. So Amherst has one that is 350 words. It is the Access to Amherst supplement. We seek an Amherst made stronger because it includes those whose experience can enhance our understanding of our nation and our world. We do so in the faith that our humanity is an identity forged from diversity and that our different perspectives enrich our inquiry, deepen our knowledge, strengthen our community, and prepare students to engage with an ever-changing world. That is from Amherst College Trustee Statement on Diversity and Community. And then the question is, in what ways could your unique experiences enhance our understanding of our nation and our world? And I think it can be like, oh my gosh, are they gonna ask me to like talk to the whole world? They're gonna put me in front of the UN? No, no. They want to know really just how, like what about your experiences have been unique? And I think like you all have so like everyone is unique. Even if there's two twins on this call, I know for a fact you guys haven't had the same experience because you are different people. Um, you are different human beings. So, uh, what I say for the unique experiences is really lean into what all the different experiences you've had. I think I encourage you all to think as rural students about like how your community has shaped you growing up in the town that you lived in, what that experience was like. Some other ways to think about it is like maybe your family circumstances. You can think about those for experiences. You can think about your interest, um, and just anything at all. And then how do you think that could enhance how we see the world? And think about also, it isn't it it is valuable to hear other people's experiences, even if they're a little bit similar to yours. There is a difference, and that can enhance your nation, how you understand the world and how you go through it. And then Brown, theirs is a little bit more complicated, just because there's a little bit more information. Um, the first thing they ask is that you talk about their concentrations, and they provide even all the different things. A concentration is essentially the same as a major. Um, I will say that just here. You can select what your concentrations would be. So maybe it's biochemistry and molecular biology, and then your second favorite one would be Slavic studies. Those would be the two things you're most interested in. And then uh, at most universities, there's a set of core courses. At Brown, they have the open curriculum. So basically, what they allow students is you they do want you to graduate in one of those concentrations, and it's an in-depth research. But then outside of that, you can take whatever course you want. Why does that appeal to you? So that's what they're really trying to get at. Why does that freedom to study whatever you want to study appeal to you? I would also consider if you're like, I don't know if that actually appeals to me. If you're thinking, I wouldn't like that, I want to know what courses I should take. Are you interested in Brown that badly? Maybe it's not. Maybe think about how it's ordered in your list, and how you rank it. Um, Questions about that, feel free to put in the chat. And then the last two things are disciplinary related. So, um, you have attended from ninth grade forward, which is academic misconduct, behavioral misconduct that results in a disciplinary action. Hopefully that's a no, but if you select yes, you'll need to share more detail about the date, the incident, explain the circumstances, and then reflect on what you've learned from the experience. I will say with this, please don't lie. Put yes, and if it's a yes, and the most important part for Brown is they do want to know how you have learned from that experience, how you have grown. Um, not they're not as they really want to see that. We understand you all are not you're high schoolers, you're still growing as people. So, and then the same thing for this question about a crime, yes or a no. And you need to provide a explanation. So. Um, one thing that I do want to point out, this approach, so you don't, this is going to inform their decision, but it does not determine them. So don't do- you're in that boat. Um, don't just immediately rule it out. And then eventually you'll be asked to do signature. So I might put, whoa, why am I getting that? Okay. And then what you'll see is that I didn't fill in a bunch of information, so it's not going to let me review this application. It's not going to let me submit this application. Um, it tells me I can because I'm doing this from a test account. But you all can't. You won't be able to submit, and then it's waiting to hear back. All right, let me come back here, and I am going to go to present. Amy wasn't able to make it, but this is both mine and Phil's email. You're also welcome to email or text back both of the communications that were sent out about this. And hopefully you should have your advisor's email, and you can reach out to them. You can also email stars@starscollegenetwork.org. But that is the application, how it looks, how it works. I'm happy to talk more about what the fly-in applications can be and things like that. If there are any questions.